Ruslan.
One of the dopest parts about doing YouTube is being able to connect with different influencers, different creatives, different pastors, and you just never know who is watching, who's connecting with your content. And this next gentleman may be one of our coolest guests yet. He is a life coach to some of our biggest celebrities in entertainment. We're talking about life coach to guys like Kanye West. We're talking about a life coach to guys like Robert Downey Jr., Steve Harvey, and hundreds, literally hundreds more. He's been on Oprah. He's been everywhere. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Storey. Tim, thank you so much for being with us.
I tell you, I loved your intro. I could have just fed off that intro for a long time.
Well, hey, I could have made it longer because you have an incredible life story, but I wanted to keep it brief to the point. Before we get into how you've worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment, some of the biggest names in Hollywood, I do want to just have you just open up. You're an accomplished author, you're a pastor, you're a life coach, you do everything there is to do under the sun, and you do it excellently. But for the folks that have never heard of you, tell them a quick backstory because your life story is fascinating.
I want to just start with the fact that I was perusing and came across you and was so blown away that I told my son and one of my staff members, I said, we got to chase this guy down. So I just want to just say that what you're doing is phenomenal. I love your creativity, your energy, the way you're reaching out to all types of people, but yet maintaining your faith. So what a privilege to be on your platform.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Tim.
So my thing is, I'm just was a young guy that was born in Compton, California, 5 people, 5 children, 2 parents, in a very small apartment. And, we all had big dreams. My parents started taking us to church when we were little kids, and that faith took root early and stayed with it, and had dreams. And my dream was to be a humanitarian, and that's what I became. I went to seminary and ended up getting a doctorate. And then 75 countries later, here I get to sit with you.
Wow, that's incredible. So how do you do so many different things, and how were you able to do so many things? I mean, you're talking about seminary, you're talking about writing multiple books that were bestsellers. You really have done quite a few things. Where did you start, and how did that transition go?
I teach that, some things you decide, other things you discover. And I think that some people trip so much on the decision side, like what am I going to be? What am I going to be? What am I going to be? But I find that most people that do amazing things, they do it on the discovery side, that it just begins to unfold. And so my discovery happened my probably senior year in high school, where a girl that was next to me was reading a book about the life of Mother Teresa. I saw her reading that book, and she asked me if I wanted to read it. I read it, and I got really touched by this lady who was a school teacher, a nun, and how she started caring for these orphans. And I'm like, man, I wonder why I'm connecting to that. So I went in and I talked to this guidance counselor, and he said, Tim, that's really you. Even though you're an athlete and people like you and you have some kind of energy to you, you really love people. And so I decided to go to seminary, and my life started to just unfold. So I think it was not just a decision, but it was the discovery.
Wow, that's good. The discovery of your purpose. I think I definitely have some alignment there with you in terms of just my own journey. That's super cool. And would you say the biggest takeaway you had from seminary? Because you want to be a philanthropist, you want to be someone that changes the world, yet you go the Jesus route, as you would say. You go the let me learn the theology and the scriptures. What was it that made you want to go that route?
I think that for me is that when I really felt like God had touched my life in such a special way at 17, that it was like this enlightenment of a revelation. And I think when when you get a revelation, it leads to conviction, and conviction leads to action. So the revelation of really, discovering Christ in a deeper way, I wanted to, do the Jesus style, and that was like give people a life lift. So to me, it was never about selling like a bunch of books or becoming well known. It was about serving one person at a time. And that's what I do today, whether I'm talking to a kid outside of 7-Eleven who's asking for money, or whether I'm speaking on some platform to a lot of people. So that's genuinely how it is. And I do it one day at a time, and that's how I see life.
That's so cool. And I think what's interesting is that the framework and the foundation of everything you do is from a Christian, Jesus-centered point of view, yet you've been able to touch all types of different celebrities and be there for them. And before we get into some of the particulars, I love how you share where sometimes you'll sit down with these people and they'll be on TMZ the day before for just something scandalous. And you'll sit down with them and you won't even bring it up. And you just didn't want to talk about it. Could you just share some of that like mindset and just that kindness and graciousness that you have when engaging with people that, oftentimes live very tumultuous lifestyles?
Yeah, I think that, people say, what's it like to work with celebrities? I think it's very similar to work with someone who's not famous. And that is, we all go through similar things, but what they're going through is amplified. So let's say like a famous person that you might know that I work with, if they have a difficult situation going on in their life, addiction or controversy with their girlfriend or their wife, I mean, I watch them on TMZ while I'm working with them at the same time. And as you said, what I'm known for is I usually don't even bring it up because I think that everybody is going through recovery of some kind, whether recovery from your past or recovery from your present. So I don't like to really major on like what's happening and how people are seeing you. I just want to give them steps to get better.
Wow, I like that. Just simple steps to get better. And how much would you say of your faith is infused in this process? Meaning, obviously you're coming from a Christian worldview, but how much of this do you get to talk about Jesus and God versus kind of just giving them the ways of God without maybe directly telling them, hey, you need to trust Jesus? Like, how do you navigate that?
I think the model for me, this is going to be kind of funny to young people that do not know who this guy is Pat Boone.
Okay.
Because Pat Boone was the first guy that created like a Hollywood Bible study. And he had guys like John Wayne and Rock Hudson and Bob Dylan, like the Bob Dylan. And then later was this Frank and Bunny Wilson. And then the next was me. But I started with the greats. I mean, with Jack Lemmon, Walter Matthau, Charlton Heston, Vidal Sassoon, Lee Iacocca. So I was rocking with the biggest stars of all time. And I was super young. And that happened through one famous lady invited me to her Beverly Hills house to do a Bible study. And so what I learned quickly, because 13 people of that Bible study, out of the 13, seven of them were Jewish, in Jewish faith. And so I learned to use the Psalms and the Proverbs and just, teach biblical principles. So, the Hollywood Bible study took off. And now we have over 7,000 people that consider themselves part of the Hollywood Bible study group. And so, yeah, I mean, I teach the Bible and people come from all faiths and sit there and learn. People always say, who comes? No, it's more who has not come.
I love that.
I think we've run everybody through there because it's been going for 30 years.
Wow. Do you think that the guys that have kind of raised up recently in the entertainment scene, when we're talking Judah Smith with his campus in LA, we're talking Chad Veach with Zoe Church in LA, do you think that they've kind of followed a similar model as you?
I would say no doubt, and I love both of those guys. I think Judah is like a phenom as a speaker. I mean, Judah is a phenomenal speaker and a great young guy. I've known him since he was super young. And Chad Veach, I consider a great friend. I think that, if you ask Chad, he did see Tim Storey as a model. I think same thing with John Gray. When I ate dinner with him recently, he saw Tim Story as a model. So, but I also saw Pat Boone as a model.
Mm.
So I think they're doing what they're doing, and with their swag and their way and helping a lot of people. And I'm just, again, I'm a humanitarian. I'm a life advisor, but I do it in a Jesus style. And so far so good.
That's so awesome. And how did the books start to take off? You had the Comeback and Beyond, the new book, The Miracle Mind, which I want to get into that Miracle Mindset. How did like, where do you find time to also be an author?
I think what happens again in life, there's a scripture that says, "He who works his land shall have abundance."
Come on.
And people say, "Well, what is your land?" Your land is what's in front of you. If you're in the seventh grade, work your land. If you work at Taco Bell, make me a gordita, take care of the Chihuahua, and don't complain. So no, so your land is what's in front of you, and that's one thing that I've always done is, whether I was a dishwasher, I was working my land. If I was a busboy, I was working my land. As Tim Storey, I'll never forget when USA Today interviewed me. This was back in 1997. They said, "They call you the life coach to the stars."
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, "That's right." Well, I never heard that. I just agreed with the guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for me, I just work my land. So working your land is to plow the ground, plant the right seed, water the seed, and then you're going to reap a harvest.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever's in front of me, I'm just working my land. And so, by being good at working my land, people go like, "Man, he's good at working his land. Let's give him a book deal. Let's give him a TV show. Let's let him do Broadway plays. Let's let him run 8 companies." So yeah, I'm just working my land.
That is so cool. So I want to talk about some of the particulars in terms of your life coaching stuff. Someone that we've recently seen come to faith, a part of what, I'm into music and Christian hip hop, is Kanye. And you've been in his life, as a leader for a while. Can you talk about just kind of some of that dynamic, and what is your impression of him fully surrendering to Jesus in the last couple of years?
Well, I've been friends with him 14 years. So the way it happened, I was on my way to Miami to go speak somewhere, and he was going to Art Basel, which is a great event in Miami. And I'll never forget, I was on the big plane. It's like a 777. And I saw this big guy that was a bodyguard. And I had noticed him around town, but I thought it was Britney Spears' bodyguard. So I thought, oh, Britney Spears is going to roll through here. But no, behind the guy was Kanye West. This is 14 years ago.
Yeah. So is he peak popularity yet, or is he still kind of low key? 14 years ago, is that 06?
No, 14 years ago, he was flying, man. That was
late registration, graduation era, right?
100%. He was right there. So he comes in, and I look at the seats, and I notice there's only one in first class left. So he sits there. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a funny story, because I was reading USA Today, and I didn't say anything to him, like for the first 5 minutes. And then he said to me, he goes, "Hey," he goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Good." And he says, "How come you're not talking to me?" So that was my first dialogue with Kanye West. He goes, "How come you're not talking to me?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Because I'm giving you space." And he goes, "Well, tell me about you." And so, 5.5 hours later of conversation, we were connected at the hip. So, I've been in the studio with him from there till now, and get to see his emergence. But he's my little brother. I mean,
yeah,
we're not kind of close. We're very close. Like, I was the only one with him in the room at his mother's funeral, of us just talking as like family. We're family.
Yeah.
So I see family things. When North was first born, I was one of the first ones to see her. And I've known Kim since she was like 14. Kim Kardashian's dad was my great friend, Robert Kardashian, and he was part of my Hollywood Bible study. So the Kanye thing, it's been unfolding for a long time. It started with his dad and his mother, Donda, who was also my friend. And Donda telling me in front of Kanye that, you know, he had been prophesied to when he was younger that he would be a prophet. And, and I said to Kanye, you know, all we have to do is change some of the words and then it'll come out better. So yeah, so I think that he experienced Tim Story. And then next was Rich Wilkerson Jr., who I really like a lot too.
Yeah.
I've known Rich since he was a kid. His dad's my buddy. And then Kanye came to me and said, I met this guy through some people. His name is Rich Wilkerson Jr. What do you think about him? I said, he's phenomenal. And Rich came to me and said, Kanye said that, you know, you talked to him about me, et cetera. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of people started to then get involved. And Craig Rochelle out of Oklahoma City. So a lot of people have been on the path helping him out. And he's like anybody, you know, he's going through ups and downs and different seasons, but he's a good friend and a great person.
Yeah, my buddy Farnsworth Bentley, Mr. Bentley, Derek Watkins, he's been in Kanye's life for a while, and so we've, you know, hung out backstage before and the whole bit. And the marvelous part is just to see how many people God has strategically placed around Kanye for decades. Sharing the gospel in different ways, from you, from Pastor Rich, obviously, who married him and Kim, to you know, Bentley, all these different, his dad, obviously, his mom, all these different people have just been there, and it was really cool to see it all kind of come together with the Jesus is King project, and just him being fully sold out for Jesus. Were you excited about that, to see it like really blossom into what it did, where it wasn't just Kanye believes in God and God's kind of like this accessory, or at least that's how it appeared. I don't know what his personal devotion like, but it was like, no, Jesus is the driving force of everything he appears to do now.
I think it's super cool. And, you know, with Farnsworth Bentley, I think that he's going to play a real key role in his life. And I like what he's about. And he was also involved in Diddy's life, as you know. But yeah, there's no doubt about it that I think, you know, we're the body of Christ, and that God brings people into our lives for different reasons. And the Bible says that, you know, some plant, some water, but God gives the increase. So I feel like with anybody, you know, we ought to just treat everybody special. I think everybody's a celebrity. The words to be a celebrity means to be celebrated. So I don't treat you know, a well-known person like a Denzel Washington any different than I do a second grade school teacher. So
yeah, that's so good. In terms of celebrities, right? Oftentimes people look at folks in entertainment and just think they're irredeemable, right? Yeah. they're just so far gone. It's just they're so sinful, like almost as if there's like these degrees of sin or something. And I think it's a bummer that we view folks like that. What do you think the opportunity is outside of just the what I would call old media, right? Hollywood, the record industry. What do you think is the opportunity for people to use new media so that we can contextualize this good news of Jesus? Because I think there's a lot of opportunity. One reason I was
excited about you is I feel like you are using media in a new way to bring an old message to a crowd that needs it. And that is, you know, Isaiah 61, that God will give you beauty instead of your ashes. And that you are teaching the great exchange without judgment and without trying to bring people into religion.
Yeah.
And if you can understand what I mean by that, is that I think that a lot of people in Hollywood, because I mean, this is my life. It's not like I came into Hollywood to try to make it or something. This was like God's plan for my life, as one of my assignments was to come in there to infiltrate and just love on people and bring them more to Christ than to a church or to like Christian TV. Like people are always tell me like, can you get Charlie Sheen to do Christian TV? I'd say no. Can you get Jared Leto to do my Christian radio show. No, they don't really want to. So the thing is, a lot of my friends that I coach, they're not trying to like join our group,
Yeah.
but they're into Jesus. And so
Yeah.
I think that that's what you represent is the Jesus style.
Yeah.
It's a movement, but they're not so into just typical organized religion.
Yeah, I love how you said that. In terms of you mentioned Charlie Sheen. In terms of the Charlie Sheens, and I'm sure there's other ones. How do you deal with? I mean, I'm guessing there's some degree of you probably dream really big for some of these people, not in terms of their career status, but in terms of their intimacy with Jesus. And then I'm sure there's a letdown along the way, even with a Kanye or whoever. How have you dealt with that and just remaining that positive figure, or are there hard conversations you got to have with some of these guys? Talk about that tension there.
I think there would be a letdown for most people, but not for me, because it's the way I see life. I mean, if you look at the Bible, Hebrews 11:32 says, "I don't have time to tell about the greats of Gideon and Samson and Jephthah and David." It says, "Whose weaknesses were slowly turned to strength, and they became powerful." So, like, Charlie is like my brother. I mean, Charlie and I have been friends 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Sheen calls my mother's house to speak to her in Spanish. Charlie has been one of my biggest givers in my missions work.
Yeah.
Same with Robert Downey. So I don't see it like most people. Like, I'm not like, okay, hit that point and then it'll be cool. Then you can come to one of our big churches. That's not like the goal.
Yeah.
The goal is for the weaknesses to turn to strength.
Come on.
Now, for some people, it happens in 2 months, 3 months, 13 years, 20 years, 25 years. In my book, The Miracle Mentality, I tell a story about how Smokey Robinson called me and said, "Hey, Rick James is in the hospital, and can you go see Rick?" So I hung out with Rick James for like a week, like the last days of his life.
Wow.
And man, we had a powerful experience where the power of God hit him and he was praising God and crying. It was powerful. I mean, super freak got hit at the end of his life.
Wow.
But yet when he told me the story, there was a pastor named Tommy Reed in Buffalo, New York, that had helped him 30 years ago. And he'd even got baptized in the Holy Spirit. Because when he was praying at a famous hospital in Beverly Hills, he was speaking in tongues. And I said, "Rick, where the heck did you learn how to speak in tongues?" And he goes like this. He goes, "Tommy Reed." And I went, "What?" Because that's one of my guys from way back. Tommy Reed had a church of 4,000 in Buffalo, New York. Yeah. And so that tripped me out, So whether it's Kendrick Lamar or Pharrell Williams or all the other humans I get to be around, so many of them have had a touch of the God flow from different people. And I think all of us just need to be patient with other people, and people need to be patient with us. It's like a boom bam.
Come on. I've met and hung out with Kendrick a handful of times, and that was one of the conversations I had with him was like, man, you are unapologetic about sharing your faith in Jesus, yet you have this rawness and authenticity in your content. And he just was like, man, that's just who I really am. Like, I really am that guy that goes to church while at the same time, like, I wrestle and deal with things in my community, and it's in coming from Compton and the challenges. And I remember hearing stories of Kendrick and his wife pulling up to like a Christian marriage conference and being at like a Christian marriage conference for several days. And people were so shocked that he was there. But a lot of folks behind the scenes know that he's been in the faith or around people of the faith for a long time. What's been like your engagement with some of the more the hip hop community outside of just Kanye?
I don't think there's many that I have not met because it's like a little high school. So I can go through names 1, 2, 3. So if they're in trouble, there's probably one of 3 people they're going to come to, and I'd be one of the 3. But that's just part of the deal. So these guys are trying to find their way, and a lot of them come out of church. A lot of them are church kids, and I think they're looking for people that are relatable, like yourself. Let's throw Tim Timberlake into the mix. I think Tim Timberlake is one of the best speakers on the planet now. African American. I know Tim since he was like 9 years of age. And, you know, he's helping Floyd Mayweather and so many other people. So I think it's about they're being drawn to the God in us. And then hopefully we're being drawn to serve them and lead them down the right path.
That's so good. And I always feel like keeping up with people in the industry. And I think now with this new media, I think it's going to manifest more. And this is what I mean. I think with old media, there's still gatekeepers. There's still people that are kind of monitoring your content. There's still people, unless you're Kanye and you just could do whatever you want and Universal can't get in your way. No one's going to tell Kanye no, right? Because he's Kanye. But by and large, I think there's a lot of these guys behind the scenes that are really wrestling, struggling, going to church, following Jesus privately, but maybe the content, the music doesn't reflect that. And I sense with this new media of YouTube, TikTok, SoundCloud, Spotify, everything being direct to consumer now, I think there's a revival coming. And I think there's going to be just a flooding of people being unapologetic and open about Jesus from both old media and new media. Because things are just changing, right? And like you said, they're drawn to the God in us, the Jesus in us, and then over time, their hearts begin to change. Do you think that's possible outside of just like Hollywood and the old media, but where you see new media going?
I think no doubt about it. But I think the key is for us to change our expectations. Again, they don't want to join our club. Like, you know, all the.
I love how you keep going back to that. That's good.
Because I mean, come on. It was me and Jake's all through the 90s, all through the 2000s. I was getting 2,000 invitations a year. I've spoken to 85,000 people at a time when I was only 34 years of age. And so 75 countries of the world, the biggest platforms, they don't necessarily want to come to that. They're not all trying to come to that. And we need to get that out of our mind. Like, oh, I could get them at so-and-so's, or then if they got in our little group. No, I mean, let's pay attention to how creative God is. And then he's creating other things. Like I do Bible studies at people's homes that I'm not even going to mention today. They would blow people away. And, you know, why does that happen? Because I'm coming there with no judgment, teaching the Jesus style, and it's working. And then people who don't think right will then say, but then where do you put them? I mean, what do we mean? Do they need a Christian book deal at that point? No, I'm into getting them into the Jesus style, the Jesus culture. And I honestly think that's what you're going to start to find. You're going to see a lot more Bible studies that are really strong, that are not necessarily connected to like a mega church. Like the great conversations I've had with Pharrell, he's not looking for a mega church. These guys are just into the connection with Christ. Yeah, I think so many of these guys that came out of religion tried to put a ceiling on them. Yeah. And so that's what the scary thing is about, like Christianity and celebrities. Come on, if you're not careful, you'll be like when you're going on a safari and you're looking for the big five, and the guy says, "Okay, now listen, we found three of the big five," and they start speaking in Afrikaans, because I've been to 4 safaris in South Africa, and I've been to South Africa 26 times, and they'll start speaking in Afrikaans, and they'll say, "We found the cheetah," and then they're talking, and then they'll tell the Jeep, "We found the cheetah." Yeah. Okay, that's to me like, "We found Justin Timberlake." Oh, we found Justin Bieber. Okay. You know, again, everybody's a celebrity. To be a celebrity is to be celebrated. We're made in the image of God. So when you really like start to shift this whole thing in your brain, then it all becomes a lot better.
That's so good. How do you, and we got some questions coming in that I'm going to jump into here in a second, but how do you think the church can do a better job in terms of shepherding? Forget celebrities, because I love what you said. Celebrities is just people we celebrate. In my house, my wife and my newborn baby are the celebrities right now, right? So because that's who I'm celebrating a lot. And in terms of celebrating, not celebrating, but empowering, equipping, shepherding creative people. Some of those creative people come out of the church, the Beyoncés, the Kendricks, right? The Kanyes. They're coming from the church. And Beyonce literally was platformed in the church early on. And I had the same conversation with John Gray before. But how do you think the church could do a better job of shepherding these folks so there isn't a lid over them, so that they don't lose touch with some of their roots and kind of go, all in the world, but we keep that balance? How do you think the church could do a better job? And I'm with you. It's not. I don't think it's about mega churches.
A great question, because I like where you're going with this, because it's about the creatives. It's about the creatives. So if we teach Ephesians 3:20, for God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. So Kendrick Lamar says, okay. Then he writes a song, I got royalty in my DNA. Now, if you're a pastor and you're insecure, you're going to try to put the lid on these guys.
Come on.
You're going to put the lid on them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you're going to be his father. And he comes to your church and you baptized him. I mean, congratulations. All right. Mm-hmm. So what I hear from a lot of the guys that I've been working with, and again, I've been doing this for 30 years in Beverly Hills, 30 years, is they're not really into all that boxing in. Mm-hmm. But what they are into is being tutored, mentored, sculpted, okay? They're looking for good shepherds. Like one guy that who's one of the biggest names, said to me, I don't want a pimp preacher. And he wasn't talking about like a certain race. He just said, I'm not looking for a guy that's trying to be as shiny as me.
Wow.
I'm looking for somebody that's a servant.
Yeah.
And then that's why I sent him to a servant church, and he ended up giving about $5 million to that church.
Wow.
And I'm not going to say his name because he likes to play under the radar. Sure. But that's what people are looking for. They want to be tutored, mentored, coached. And that's why I've been able to stay in these guys' lives for all these years. And when they're in trouble, they call. When they're not in trouble, they just want to check up. And to me, that's a Jesus style. He took 12 disciples that needed to be mentored, tutored, and sculpted.
That's good. A couple questions coming in. What's the balance between patience and correction and love, or even addressing some of their sins directly?
I think that I like to err on the side of love and err on the side of grace. And I feel like the closer you bring someone to Christ, that Christ changes their want-tos. So a lot of the guys that smoke a lot of weed, when I used to come into the studio, they would say like, whoa, don't smoke now because Tim's here. I mean, guys that we all know, okay? Yeah. And so then I started noticing the more I was coming in the studio, then they weren't smoking anymore. And I asked one guy that everybody knows, I said, what's up? And he says, Tim, I mean, like, the closer I'm getting to God, I'm just realizing this is not like good for me. So that's what I see. The closer someone gets to Christ, Christ changes their want-tos. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. It's almost like the law of replacement, right? If you fill your cup with Jesus, you fill your cup with pressing into God, being around godly people, praise, worship, word. A lot of times those things just slowly start to fall away. And I'll be honest, in my life, I've had friends, for example, someone that was multiple couples that would be living together before marriage, and I knew that they were being sexually immoral, and I would be like, all right, like, I'm around these folks are in my circle, I'm gonna have to have this talk with them at some point. And before I would always go and just pray for them. I would just go and pray, get on my knees for them, pray for them. God, you reveal yourself to them. You reveal this thing, how they can course correct it. And Tim, the majority, I'm talking 95% of the time, and this has happened quite a bit, within a week or two, they come back to me and they go, "Hey, man, here's our wedding invitation. We're getting married. We were praying about this. God convicted us, and we're getting counseling with the pastor at the local church, and we're getting married." And it's always like blown my mind that a lot of times we want to go directly in for the rebuke, which the word is there for rebuke. There is a time to rebuke and there is a time to correct. But oftentimes, do we stop and get on our knees and legitimately pray and intercede for someone that God will do what he needs to do with them in that season? I don't think we do. I think Christians, we like the knee-jerk reaction of going, look, this thing in your life is wrong. I got to tell you about it. Instead of saying, wait a minute, have I gotten on my knees and prayed for this person that the Holy Spirit would deal with this person directly with their sin?
Yeah, I like the way you think. So I like door number 2, not door number 1.
Yeah.
I don't like the just right at you. It's almost like a basketball coach. Like one thing that made Phil Jackson so great is he didn't call so many timeouts. And his idea on that was, hey, I teach them in practice so I don't have to call timeout too much during the game. And I think that a lot of pastors are like the timeout guy. Like, you did something wrong, timeout. Let's correct it. Timeout.
Yeah.
Timeout. Yeah. And my way of coaching somebody and even parenting my children is realizing it's a journey. And, you teach people the right principles and you become an example to them and they see the joy in your life, the peace in your life. It becomes very contagious. And that's what I see working, guys, on big platforms. I mean, let's talk about the Oprah platform, because the Oprah platform is mind-boggling. And for her to let me do the Oprah cruises with her, I'm in her new book, I'm in her last documentary. I speak with her in these big conferences. We have amazing conversations, and she's put me with all these thought leaders, a lot of them new age, coming from all walks of life, but yet there's a spirit-filled Christian Tim Storey right in the middle of them, and hanging with them, and me having great discussions. I just interviewed recently Deepak Chopra, and people say, "Why did you do that?" Because he's my friend. Different beliefs, but he's still my friend. He's a human being. Yeah. Well, have you brought him to Christ yet? No, I'm just talking to him as a human, and he's seen the Christ in me. So I think that's cool. I don't know. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and last question on this Hollywood thing, and then I want to get into come back and beyond and miracle mindset. This is coming in from the chat. A lot of Christians consider Hollywood to be an evil place. What are your thoughts on the spiritual climate, as well as the evil gatekeepers and people having to sell their soul to be a celebrity? That whole shtick. I've talked about it on my channel a bit. My views are probably different than from a lot of my viewers on this. Well, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, we hear these allegations of all kinds of bizarre rituals, and I've been, I'm nowhere near as deep as you, but I've been around the rapper community for quite a bit, and I haven't seen any of this kind of stuff. I see people as sinful as hurt, and hurt people, and so. But what is your take on some of that kind of more, selling your soul type of stuff?
I think whether it be the models I've been around, or people that have been playmates, or people that are rappers or NBA players, NFL players, that when you have celebrity, you have access to more than the average person. And so I do believe that a lot of people get into excess, and it can go deeper and deeper and darker and darker and darker. And so there is a segment of that world that I have seen. So there's no doubt about it. But I also think that a lot of people, what happens to them is they just get lost. And then it takes like your buddy, like Farnsworth Bentley, to come in and be like the light to some of these humans, and just care about them. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I see the dark stuff. I've seen some dark stuff, but I've also seen like good people that just got lost, like a Chris Brown. Like, I've had great talks with Chris Brown. He was a young kid that got around a lot of Jesus, but got around also a lot of silly stuff. I remember I was walking in a Laker game, and I was walking through the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and Lil Wayne was like this in the seat, and he goes, "Hey, Kanye's pastor." I thought that was so funny. He goes, "Can I holler at you at halftime?" So I think that, let's be the light, and it exposes the darkness without even trying, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people then say, like, I'll have what they're having.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. There's a proverb that says an inheritance obtained too early in life is not a blessing in the end. And when you see young people who make the lion's share of their income between the ages of 18 to 25, and they say your brain, I don't know if this is true, but they say your brain's not fully formed until you're 25. And
Yeah.
now you have infinite access to access, infinite access to sin, infinite access to indulge in whatever drug, to get access to any type of girl you would ever imagine. It creates this recipe of self-destructive behavior that I think, like you said, is folks that start out with good intentions that kind of get sucked into it, and then there's full-on darkness that happens to some of these
Well, that's
folks.
why you're so good, and that's why I reached out to you. That was brilliant right there, because you're right. They have access to stuff that the guy who works at Jiffy Lube does not have. I mean, the guy who works at Dunkin' Donuts does not have that kind of access.
Yep.
It's crazy, like,
Yep.
what these humans are offered and how people look up to them is crazy. Like, I mean, look at Kylie Jenner. I mean,
Yeah.
when I used to see her years ago, I used to think, bless her heart, she's not as tall as her sister, And now the lady's a billionaire, but imagine what comes at somebody like that, and just the worship and the way people, some of the young girls look up to her. Like, a lot of times when I go speak at these events, I'll say, like, who do you look up to? Like, I say to the young girls, they're like, Kylie Jenner. It's very interesting. It's very interesting stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, man. So because of all that, because of what we just talked about, that's why I tend to say, hey, man, have mercy on these people, have grace on these people. I don't know what I would be like if I was their age with that kind of access. I probably would have been worse off if I had that kind of access at that age, that kind of money. People want to look at a Justin Bieber and be like, oh, he's such a derelict. And it's like, man, this kid was a celebrity at 14, 15 years old. So I think as to come full circle to the what could the church do better, I think a lot of it is just honestly have grace, mercy on a lot of these folks and pray for them. Like, really be praying for them. If you want to see change, like you've seen change, like we're all seeing change, I think, on a macro scale within some of the entertainment, especially with new media. I think we need to be praying for these brothers and sisters that they would surrender.
Can I take you to another place besides just that for a minute?
Please.
Is that I think that, like, let's say with Bieber, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He is so talented. I mean, a lot of people thought he'd only last so long, but I like how he started getting in with other producers that took his sound to different places. I mean, he can go anywhere from with Quavo to Ed Sheeran and do something good. But the thing is, that's just something he's good at. What I've been able to be around is the best artists in the world, the best writers in the world, the best poets in the world, the best piano players in the world. We need to get off that the art is just this celebrity thing, like these people.
Yes.
Like these people. I mean, let's talk about these amazing creatives that are not on TMZ.
Yeah.
And so I've had the privilege of having these amazing summits, like in Marbella, Spain, and some of the brightest minds from Europe come in, and you get to share with them that are changing the world, that are like the top people in AI. I recently was asked to come to speak at Nassau. That was amazing. I did this thing recently with the Dalai Lama, me, Quincy Jones, and will.i.am. I was speaking to the people at Google X. I mean, that's exciting too.
Yeah.
Let's reach out into all these different categories.
Come on.
It's not this little tiny cluster at all.
That's so good. Okay. I want to talk about your latest two books, Come Back and Beyond, and then Miracle Mindset.
Yeah, miracle
Come back,
mentality
Miracle Mentality. Sorry, I keep calling it mindset for some reason because I think
no,
it's a
but
mindset as well as mentality. So in terms of Come Back and Beyond, how to turn your setbacks into comebacks, you've accomplished incredible things. On your interview with Grant Cardone, you got vulnerable and you talked about having gone through a divorce. And there's folks watching this that have gone through similar things, lost their families, and had some massive setbacks. Can you talk about just how you were able to come back from that? How was that? How was all that? And for the folks in here that maybe have gone through a divorce and maybe they're carrying that shame, maybe they're carrying that guilt, and they're followers of Jesus. Just talk about that.
Yeah, so that was a tough one because of the way I was raised. I was raised in a charismatic Pentecostal church, and the person that I married is phenomenal. She became a college professor, went to USC, got her master's at Biola University. Her dad had two doctorates and was a aide to both President Bush's on urban affairs. So to go to this man and say, can I have your daughter's hand in marriage? And he liked me, respected me. And then 3 years into the marriage, it's like, man, we're like two human beings that are completely different. And then it lasted 8 more years, but it lasted 8 more very long years.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really connect on so many levels. And people say, well, did you continue to try? Yeah. We saw probably two of the best Christian marriage counselors in America. They're known for this. And we saw them for 3 years. And so it did not work. And that was a terrible thing because, for me, my father had died when I was 10. And so I looked to this man that I saw as my father-in-law as a father figure, and to feel like I had let him down, I let my kids down, I'd let all these mega churches that had brought me in for all these years. Yeah, it was a terrible time.
Yeah.
But through amazing counselors, a lady named Dr. Helen Mendez, who taught at USC, African-American lady, spirit-filled Christian, man, she changed my life and just taught me about grace, taught me about how grace fills in the gaps and about how to make the right choices, even in the midst of difficult times. So I would say it took me a long time to get through, get over.
Yeah.
Did it affect my children? I'd say no doubt about it. Did it affect me? No doubt about it. Were people gracious to me? Yes. So I had the opposite of what most people get.
Yeah.
Most people get like the hateration.
Yeah.
I got a lot of hugging.
Wow.
And I asked a lady named Marilyn Hickey, who's like, she was like a big deal in like her day, and she's still a big deal. She's like 80 years of age, but she was like before Joyce Myers. And she says the reason people are treating you great is because you treat people great. So you're reaping what you sow. So the body of Christ has been very kind to me. People have been kind to me, but I wasn't so kind to myself because I didn't like taking that L.
Yeah. Well, you said you guys were married a total of a decade, 11 years. Did I follow that correctly, the timeline?
Yeah. 11 years, and you had two virgins coming in.
Oh,
so
wow.
We were living the life. So I was a 25-year-old virgin. She was 22 years of age. So I had never drank alcohol. I'd never smoked weed. I was like trying to live the life. And so that's the thing that I think probably helped me. I think a lot of my friends think I'm a better person since I've fallen on my butt a few times. And I really think it's true. Because I learned what the view was like from down here.
Wow.
That view, I felt like, blind Bartimaeus, like he was sitting by the roadside.
Yeah.
And, because I had been elevated for a while. I was good in sports.
Yeah.
But being good in sports and having charisma elevated me. And then I got elevated in the church world. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody who is getting more invitations to speak than me. not one person.
Yeah.
And so, no, I mean, to be like blind Bartimaeus sitting by the roadside,
Yeah. Yeah.
actually kick my butt but it's probably been the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I didn't have to go through a divorce or other
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
but I learned from my challenge.
Thank you for being so vulnerable about that, Tim. I think that is, we talked about having grace and mercy on other people. And then I think you saying you needed to have grace and mercy on yourself. Do you think it was also because you really went, you said you guys went and saw a marriage counselor for 3 years and you really did your best to not let it happen? Do you think that is maybe why people were also like, maybe they knew that, hey, Tim's a stand-up guy, he's going to pour himself into this until there, he's going to fight for this until there's nothing left to fight for?
Yeah, and again, people treated me great, like the biggest guys in the church world, like the Brian Houstons and all those guys. They all treated me great, and everybody was cool with me. But what happens to many of us when we fail is we beat ourselves up, and we sit in our setback, and we settle in our setback, and we cement ourselves in our setback. So I remember when I started working with Robert Downey Jr. in 1999, he said to me, Tim, just help my life just be okay, because he was struggling. And I said, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm not good at just doing okay. So I knew that I was not going to live in the land of okay my whole life. I just knew that I was living in the land of okay then.
Wow.
But, to think of what God is doing in my life now with the best-selling book. I mean, do you know that I'm in 90 airports every day? I'm in 90 airports around the world. All you have to do is look to the right or look to the left. You're going to see my face. And I'm like talking like this. And there's motivational quotes.
Wow.
You've never seen the charismatic happen. I'm in over 1 million hotel rooms right now around the world.
Wow.
Doing the thing with these 3-minute motivational clips. Every single day, somebody texts me because I write every month for American Airlines magazine, United Airlines magazine every month. And my last article for both of them was on the miracle mentality. That's dope. I think
amazing.
That's great stuff, man. To like have a charismatic amongst the humans.
Come on. Let's talk about the miracle mentality. Just share. I've heard you talk about it. Some of the interviews around it. We've talked about the comeback and the comeback that you have and the comeback that's available for us. Talk about the miracle mentality and just your heart behind that.
The miracle mentality is the reality. Is I started to interview people for like 10 years, and I found out that probably like 85% of the people that I interviewed believed in miracles. Well, what's a miracle? It's something uncommon, not regular, not normal, not the status quo. And so people believe in miracles. Little kids believe in miracles. You could ask them when they're 5 or 6, what do you want to be? An astronaut. What do you want to be? A policeman, a doctor, a ballerina, a princess. And so I believe that many times when life interruptions hit you, whether it be your parents' divorce, or maybe you were molested as a kid, or you got sick as a kid, or something happens to you that jacks with your miracle mentality and minimizes you. So this book is about how to get you back to the place of innocence. And the reason I believe it's doing so well, and it's doing so well, on Clubhouse, my friend Grant Cardone threw a party for me. And we broke a record. In one night, we sold 21,000 of these.
Wow.
21,000 in one night on Clubhouse. And so many people are buying 1,000 at a time for their companies. One guy I just talked to the other day, he wants to buy 30,000. Now, why is that happening? Who wants to be minimized in their life? So this is essential reading about how to believe in miracles, expect them, receive them, become one, and then release them. And what you're about is you're a miracle releaser. I mean, you got to understand how busy I am. And dude, I was like on you. When I saw you, I told my son, I go, watch this guy. And my son's uber creative. He went to LA film and recording school, and he's met everybody. And I went like, okay, cool, look at this guy. I'm like, man, this guy, man, I like the way he's thinking, and he's bringing God talk up, but he's not scaring people away. And so I'm loving what you're about. Someday we might collaborate. because I think you're headed into just some amazing places, spaces that, you know, are beyond even these big festivals that you're doing in the podcast. I mean, you may move into Broadway plays and film and documentaries. I mean, come on, just you're exploding. You know, it's fun to watch.
I appreciate that. And what I like about when you talk about the miracle mentality, I think about classical apologetics and the approach of classical apologetics, which goes, God is real, therefore miracles can be real. Therefore, you know, Jesus rose from the grave, which is the ultimate miracle, and then you kind of reverse engineer everything else there, right? And so I think it's a very strategic way for you to create kind of an on-ramp for people to go into some of the deeper things of following Jesus, which is, hey, we all want a miracle mentality. I believe Jesus makes us better at life when we live his way, and then also makes life better. You know, I think sometimes we want one or the other. It's just like, I'm going to follow Jesus and by discipline be better at life, or Jesus, just make my life better. I don't want to do anything about it, right? And it sounds like you're kind of saying, it sounds like you're kind of bridging those two ideas, right? Where there's a mentality that we need to operate in as children of God, and then and maybe as people who don't fully know Jesus, but then once they meet Jesus, then they also will have a better experience because Jesus ultimately makes us better at life.
You said it perfect, because what it is that if we do not have a miracle mentality, we're just acting very regular. And so God never called us to be regular. At utmost, God did not create almost children. And
Come on, hold on. You got to run that back. You're full of these one-liners, Tim, but that one, I need you to run that back. So
when you hear all these guys that you mentioned earlier and all the others that quote all the Tim Storey sayings, now you get to hear them firsthand. An utmost, God did not create almost children. So the whole thing is that God does not want you to be almost. I almost made it. I almost did it. I almost broke through. No. Utmost God wants you to connect to his utmost power. So the miracle mentality is putting God's super on your natural that makes your life supernatural. And again, I got to come back to you that somehow, some way, in some brokenness, you've allowed God's super to hit your natural, to where you got a creative like me to go like this. Like people say, how did you get into the life of Quincy Jones? I've been best friends with Quincy Jones 25 years. Wow. And for the young people that don't get this, then you just don't get it. This is not like, oh, he's super close to the Migos, or he's super close to the baby. No, that's not what I'm saying. Quincy Jones, meeting with Quincy Jones monthly in his Bel Air mansion and dialoguing about things like this, and praying with him, and talking shop, and him calling me the voice of inspiration to this generation. You know, that's about the supernatural. One day I came in his house and he goes, this is crazy. He goes, I'm not even joking. He says, I was turning this way and I felt you come up the steps.
Wow.
Why is that? Because I walk in the supernatural. I'm not walking like a normal human.
Come on. What I love about this, and I want to bring it full circle back to you saying Mother Teresa inspired you, right? Yeah. I think sometimes whether it's a perversion of some of this or whether it's just a misunderstanding of some of what we're talking, because we're talking some high level stuff. I think the miracle mentality comes full circle when we can then be the hands and feet of Jesus for other people. That you being beyond average, you being not normal, which is living paycheck to paycheck, struggling, not having money for an emergency expense, you going beyond that, in my opinion. When I read Matthew chapter 25, and the first parable is about Jesus coming back and the wise virgins versus the foolish virgins and being prepared, then it goes right into the parable of the talents, right? Which is stewardship. But then it goes into, hey, care for the least of these. When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I read that, and I think this is why I don't like talking to people a lot about end times and eschatology, because I think we miss it. you need to live your life as if you're prepared for Jesus to come back at any moment. Therefore, you need to manage your time, talent, and treasure. And therefore, we get to live a miracle mentality in how we get to treat others because we have the supernatural in our lives. And I think so many people miss it, and they're just either living in fear, or they're living in poverty, or they're living afraid. And it's like, hey, what if God strategically positioned everybody who's watching this on YouTube, everybody who follows you on Instagram, to be in this context, this North American context where we have the ability to build wealth so that God can use us to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit those in prison. And I think sometimes this stuff gets such a bad rap, and I just love how you break that down. But I think people will misinterpret it and say, well, it's all about a prosperity gospel. It's just about me. And it's like, no. I don't want money to hoard money. I want to be able to be a blessing. And until you are a blessing, you don't quite understand the resourcefulness that money can have. My buddy Jason Mayfield always says that money is a terrible master, but a great servant. And I want to hear you talk on that.
Well, it's going to be hard to beat what you just said, man.
Come on now.
That was a mixture of Jakes and Furtick right there. And I think you beat them both, to be honest. I think, so for me, the miracle mentality, a mentality is a mindset. It's a point of view. It's the way you see things.
Come on.
So if you see your daughter struggling, if you have a regular mentality, you're just going to see, oh my God, look at the struggle. You have a miracle mentality, you're thinking, I believe she's going to work through that. Mm-hmm. Or if you see your relationship struggling with your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, you can get dramatic in the midst of the drama if you don't have a miracle mentality.
Come on.
So a miracle mentality makes you think extra than what I see, extra than what I feel, extra than what I'm going through.
Come on.
Dude, I got this so deep in me that I ain't scared. And I got this so deep in me that I'm trying to tell you, it's not about, like, a lot of young guys say to me, like, Tim, look at all the stuff you've done. What's next? And usually I don't even answer. I go, what's now?
Come
Man,
on.
I'm living in my now. Like, so right now, I'm not into what's next. I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. I'm mixing it up with a brilliant mind. You're a worldwide mind. You're not just a American mind. Dude, you're worldwide, and the way you rhyme and rap and flow, and that's an unusual gift. It's going to be exciting to me to watch where that takes you. So we go from believing in miracles, expecting them, receiving them, becoming a miracle, and then releasing. But let's not clap for ourselves because we're doggone releasing miracles all the time. Just release them and shut the heck up.
Yeah. That's so good. That's so good. Man, we could do this all day, Tim. I really can. I don't want to hold you too long. What final words, encouragement? There's a lot of young people watching this, a lot of folks that are under 40 that are maybe going through some tough times. Maybe they're looking for their miracle mentality. Maybe they need that comeback. Just impart some wisdom on the next generation here.
I want to just say that thanks for watching this and share it with other people because this is a cool conversation. So if you're going through a setback, I'm going to give you quick steps. Number one, you have to become awake. Number two, you have to take inventory. Like if you feel like you're smoking weed too much or drinking too much or being nasty too much, I mean, get real about it. So become awake, take inventory. And then the third thing is where a lot of you guys miss it. You got to partner with the right people. Don't partner with people who have the wrong mindset and the wrong motives. You got to partner with people, and even partner with people you don't know. Like, you may not know both of us, but you're partnering with us right now. So keep watching his podcast, get this book, Miracle Mentality, partner with people. So you become awake, take inventory, partner with the right people. Then you got to find the right principles. Oof. And the right principles will change your life. So even Psalms 1 alone will change your life. Blessed is a man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly or stand in the path of sinners, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And that person shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, whose leaves shall not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Like, Tim, you look like your life is prospering. Yeah, because I'm doing the Psalms 1 thing.
Yeah.
So the right principles take you to the right plan. So that's what I would say to you.
Wow. That's good. Wow, the right principles will take you to the right plan. And I think even your bit on partnering, I think, is so important. They've done studies and they found out that the 5 people closest to you, if you take their income on average and you divide it, and your income tends to be what the 5 people closest to you is when you factor in the average. Yeah, it's crazy. And I would say it's the same thing spiritually. I would say it's the same thing relationally. I would say it's the same thing with your mental health. And so partnering with people and what voices we're allowing in, I think is so powerful. Where can they find out more about you, Tim?
I think the best thing is just Instagram. We do a lot on Instagram, or you just go to timstorey.com, TIMSTOREY. I got an E in my name, timstorey.com. And then you could just buy the book on Amazon, and it's also in audio. It's an Audible book where I read it. So for about 5.5 hours, you can hear my voice reading that book to you while you're running, jogging, doing your homework, walking around. And yeah, it'll get in your system. But what a privilege to be on your platform.
Tim, thank you so much.
I chased you, man. I don't go chasing people.
I don't know. I don't know about that. I mean, like I said, I had a baby, and I felt it was like, oh man, I'm so behind on stuff. So I'm finally back in the groove.
I told my guy Joseph, is he done with the baby stuff yet? I want to.
Tim, this was incredible. I definitely got to have you back on. You're not too far from me, so maybe we could even do something in person sometime. Yeah. I can't wait. I'm downloading the Miracle Mentality on my audio book right now. I'm finishing John Acuff's book. Soundtrack. So this is the perfect segue. I'm a very slow reader, but I get on that Stairmaster, man, and I just throw in those headphones. So I can't wait to listen through it. And thank you for reading it yourself, by the way. I got a TD Jakes' last book on audio, and I was like, who is this guy? I want to hear Jakes. I don't want to hear some random guy.
That ain't Jakes.
Tim, thank you so much. This was incredible. Guys, if you found this valuable, of course, give this video a like. Make sure you're following Tim on Instagram. He posts content regularly that's very motivational, inspiring. Pick up the book Miracle Mentality, available on Amazon. I got Tim's story pinned up, and it'll be in the description of this. Thank you so much, Tim. This was incredible.
You were awesome.
Hey, thank you so much for making it till the end of this video. If you found it valuable, please consider giving it a like and subscribing. You can check out one of the other videos related to this that'll be over here. Now, I gotta tell you about a free training I have for anyone that is an entrepreneur, a creative, an artist, but maybe you are unsure on how to find your voice, how to find your niche. I have a free training in the description of this video. Check it out. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you on the next video.